Can your parents be your relationship guide?
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.
We're excited that for over 30 years, we've been able to come alongside you in wealth building, relational strengthening, healing, and flourishing in relationships. And that's actually what this episode is mostly about. And yet, don't you find it fascinating as you handle your relational aspect of your life, everything else gets better, including your wealth and your real estate.
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, Yetta, not only can your parents be a guide, your parents 100% were a guide to your path.
So in this episode, we're going to learn how to decide, or maybe that you have decided what to take with you and what to leave behind from the guide called parent or parents.
Yeah, because maybe your parent was an absentee parent.
Yeah.
Maybe they left. Maybe one of your parents left. Maybe one of your parents actually passed away, or whatever it is. Maybe they divorced. They taught you something based on their relationship and what happened, and you probably took some things which were not for you to take. Maybe you thought it was your fault, or that they abandoned you because of who you were. All that stuff, that's just not for you to take, right? So when we have a guide, even if you're paying a guide, you still need to filter what you're willing to take on and what you say, oh, thanks for sharing. I'm not willing to take that into my life.
And it may work for you, and it may not work for you. It may work for them and not for you.
Yeah.
And then there's those things where you think, I really want that. I love how she always listened to him, or how he always listened to her. Or it may be a relational concept that you only saw that was actually never spoken.
Or maybe they always held hands.
Maybe they did.
Right through to old age.
Right.
That's us. I want to be walking down the path of life, even in another 30 years. Even if I got one hand on a walker, I want to have my other hand in your hand.
You can't have a walker. We already had that discussion.
I can't have a walker?
You're staying fit and you're staying healthy, and you won't have a walker.
What about a scooter? Can we get a double scooter? Side-by-side seating scooter?
Absolutely not. So you will learn, or I have learned, and I suspect you have too, what you want and what you don't want just by observing, by seeing what your parents did, or other adults in your life, or those in your midst. It could be your friends. And right now we're thinking about, we don't always think of our parents as the guide, and yet they're probably one of the most influential guides in our life.
100%. And some of it we need to unpack and unravel and take out. And other things are phenomenal. What were some of the things your parents passed on to you that you go, oh, that I can see myself living like that? Not the times where you go, you're talking to your child in a certain way and you go, who let my parent in the room? Because maybe you thought you weren't going to do what your parent did when they were parenting you. That's a whole nother chapter of this. That's another show. But this show is about, what things did you glean from your parents? So you go, you know what? I brought that into my relationship. I brought it into the way I live my life. Yeah. And I'm thankful to my parent for that.
Right. And one of those things for me was the attitude of help. Help those in the family. If there was anything going on for any of us, whether we were kids or even as we were adults, my parents would drop rock and roll to come support us.
That's funny to hear you say that they would drop rock and roll. Your parents are 80 years old.
Okay. But Dad would drive, when we had the ice storm, he drove around finding generators in Toronto.
He filled up the back of his truck with generators and came up to Ottawa to help us and others.
Right. And then started driving them around to people that needed them. And that's an attitude of help. So that was something I took on, even when there were difficult things going on in our home. And it was not all a cakewalk or an easy journey.
I don't think it ever is.
Probably not. And yet when it came to the attitude of help, that is something they taught me by the way they did it. Not necessarily, they didn't ever say to me, Yetta, you better go help somebody. Like, I never was told that.
They modeled it.
They modeled it. And so many of the things that we take on that serve us well and the ones that don't serve us well were not spoken.
Yeah.
Like the way to argue. I mean, that's the flip side. That didn't work so well. And so every so often I still find myself thinking, who let my mother into my mouth? Like, how did she get there? Right? And so help was one of those biggest, most significant things for me. And I often hear people say to me, you're always willing to help. You and Ken are always willing and able and whatever, even if we can't always do it, but they know we have an attitude of wanting to help.
Yeah, I think, how can you not, like you spent, I don't know, 17 and a half, 18 years with your parents. How can you not be affected by them? It would be impossible, especially when you're born as this beautiful little baby that knows nothing. And everything you learn, especially in what do they call it? The formidable years.
Yeah.
Are from your family.
Right. So what are some things, Ken? And if you're listening, start thinking about your list, because this isn't about our life so much as it is about you identifying what things you even want to thank your parents for. Like, talk about enriching a relationship today. Thank your parents for the things, if they're still with us, and if not, say a prayer of gratitude and pass it on to your kids and those in your life. Because even if you can't thank them, you can thank them by the way you show up in the world for the things they gave you.
Yeah, both of my parents are passed on. And some of the things that I love that they gave me, the spirit of entrepreneurship, the taking risks. My dad, fun. He would party, then he would work hard. He had great work ethic. And then after like 5 years, he just shut her down and go vacation for 6 months. Like, I don't say that was the best solution, but it was fun. It was chaotic. We knew we would go on a vacation every year. We knew that we would have good food, healthy food, the tradition of cooking together. They would cook together. What else did I get?
So those are relational things that you still bring with you today. Like you'll cook with me, you'll cook with your kids, you'll cook with my parents.
I'll
know
cook
that
for you.
You'll cook for me, which I really like even better than cooking with you. And even for my parents, one of the first things that we ever did as a young couple was we cooked together for them. Mm-hmm. Right? So you had taken those things that were guided by your family, that your guide showed you, and you brought it into not only our family, but my extended family or my previous family.
I think I got my appreciation for cars from my dad. But, those are little things, but we're talking
so
mostly relational. Although he did let he let his wife sit in the passenger seat, just like I'll let you sit in the passenger seat of my car. Our car. Did I just say my car? Did I say that, Yetta? On air? Amazing.
Amazing that the truth comes out.
It slipped out somehow.
And so books, parenting. So when we think about the guide of parenting, we didn't have all the answers we needed from the parents that we had, although they were amazing and they were wonderful and they loved us a whole lot. So we started reading the parenting books. And you are very hopeful that what?
Well, that it passed on to our kids. And there's this quote from Thomas Edison. And Thomas says, when a man dies, if he can pass on enthusiasm, then like to his children, right? I'm messing up his quote altogether. But when a man dies, I'm going to read it. If he can pass enthusiasm along to his children, he has left them in a state of incalculable value.
So we're grateful to be your partners on the journey of life, relationship, and wealth.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.